also your internal environment. And here's the thing, your external environment determines your internal environment because they work together. Well, it's the same thing with the body. Like if I don't take care of the environment that my cells live in, which is the interstitial fluid, I'm just going to go right back to the same thing. It's right. It's just like kind of beating your head against the wall, just like over and over and over and over and over. And so I said, if I can change the environment, I can give my body more of a fighting chance. And so that's why what I do is a key phrase where you have to work the lymph before you do anything else. Because in the world of, when I look at chronic disease, I firmly believe that there's two causes for chronic disease. One is toxicity. It means you have too much of something inside your body, or too much stuff always coming in, and both. And number two is you have a deficiency in your body, which means you don't have enough of something, typically with your minerals are a big one, and nutrients. So you have toxicity and you have deficiency. Both go together because that's the balance part. So if you're ever going to heal from that chronic disease, no matter what you do, you have to take care of both of those. But here's how you do it is critical, because most people try to put stuff into their body through medication or through supplementation or nutrients. They're trying to make up for the deficiency.
Okay.
But you can't make up for the deficiency until you reduce the toxicity first.
Right.
Because I've got to be able to get rid of the stuff that's standing in the way for all the nutrients to be able to get into the cell. So you do number one first, of trying to get rid of the inflammation that's inside of the body, and doing the lymphatic work will do that. Why? Because when I stimulate the lymphatic system, it removes toxins from the body. And then when you start to flush that, then you do nutrients. Then you do step B.
Right, and that makes sense, because the only because you have to jump through the hoops, even just for insurance reasons and physicals, and maintaining maintaining a doctor means we have to see him once a year, whether we need to or not, whether we're going to follow his rules or not, or we're dropped and now we don't have a doctor, kind of a thing. And he was the one that sent me to the rheumatologist, who the only thing he said was, nothing really matters. Here's your pain medication and your immune suppressors, and then here's your every 3-month lab slip, because what I'm giving you is so horrible on your liver that we need to keep track of your liver. And then whenever it gets too bad, then we'll get you lined up for your cortisone injections, and because the enthesitis, my big itis, at those attachment points, that explained a lot, I was like, now I call it sparking, like feeling the attachments when they're kind of pissed off or whatever, feels so sparky. But I'm like, really? So I walked out of there, and he knew I wasn't going to take anything, but it's such an emotional place. And I was really kind of unprepared for the emotions that it stirred in me, even the level of education that I have. Because when I got sick and I wasn't getting answers, and I was just getting prescriptions and, whatever from everybody, nobody was talking to me about inflammation. Nobody was talking to me about my lymphatic system or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were just talking to me about, giving me new gravel and castles, and let's just treat this, my fish tank, kind of what's in my fish tank stuff. And, oh, you have a rash, let's put some cream on it, kind of a thing.
Right.
And so I think it was just frustrating. And then for me to actually firsthand witness sitting in a rheumatology office and having him just hand me my buttload of prescriptions and saying, this is what my life is going to be all about,
I know. Yeah.
And even knowing, information and saying, what, I've been really lax on some of my, lymphatic drainage stuff and whatever, that I really kind of need to get back on that. And I think that that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about with the lymph work is, it takes care of a lot of those emotions, how it affects the waste removal of the hormones, that I've noticed since returning to minding my lymph, that I haven't felt as emotional, kind of about the whole process, and definitely sleeping better, definitely more energy. And I lost, I had like this nagging. I mean, I'm only 5 feet tall, and so when I have like 5 pounds to lose, it's like I really feel it, and
Yeah.
and so when I started doing my lymph work again on a regular basis, I didn't change my eating or anything, and my exercise. As a matter of fact, I had to clip it. Really, I exercise completely differently now, and so way less lifting and the harder stuff that I knew, more yoga and stretching and mobility work. But I lost 5 pounds just like that, and my pain level went down significantly. So can you talk a little bit about the hormone connection or relationship with the lymph system, and kind of, am I right? Is it because I was able to kind of, get rid of my spent hormones? But what, I don't really know where to go with that.
Yeah, well, there's many different layers to it for sure. But yeah, I mean, you actually have hormones that travel through the lymphatic system as well, because it's mostly water, protein, and you got some hormones in there as well that go through. And what's interesting is that this is where it gets fascinating.
This is where it gets fascinating.
The liver is a huge part. I'm getting a little bit of echo there in the background, by the way. It might be better. Okay, I'm hearing my own voice going in the background, and I'm like, I'm scaring myself. Okay. Yeah. Let's go at it in a couple different ways. So the liver is a huge player in detoxification. So it has to detoxify every drug you've ever taken or anything that comes into the body. And it is a big player in your lymphatic system as well. It dumps about anywhere from 25 to 50% in that ballpark of the overall lymphatics of the body into the lymphatic system in your abdominal region. And then it takes it up the spine that goes to your neck, and then it goes from your neck back towards your heart. So your heart and your circulatory system and your lymphatic system work together. And hormones circulate through the blood, right?
Sure.
Right. But so they tell you that they're in the blood, but it doesn't tell you how bioactive they are, right? But that'll change when your lymphatic system works well. You actually change the amount of hormones that you can carry in your blood, because blood viscosity changes. It gets thicker or thinner.
Okay.
But also, every sex hormone that you have has to get synthesized through the liver. So if you have a sluggish liver because of a lymphatic issue, then you can't synthesize testosterone and estrogen very well. And there's a huge part that your liver plays with estrogen. And many people become estrogen dominant over the course of their lifetime, particularly for females. And that's where you can start to gain weight around your hips and thighs. But it'll also lead to lower testosterone, and then you'll start to get depression, right? And you'll feel like these menopause type symptoms, right? Hot flashes, and you'll just crash. And so when the liver is sluggish like that, and because the lymphatic system, because it's trying to dump things into a lymph system that's sluggish, you'll feel it. But also your thyroid function and your neck is linked to how well the liver works. So I've never found ever a primary thyroid problem. It's always a liver problem that manifests as a thyroid problem. Thyroid is never the problem. It's always usually something with the liver or the gut. But you have these hormones, without going too far down the rabbit hole here, you have in your thyroid what's called T4 hormones to T3 hormones. So T4 has to convert to T3. But 80% of that happens in your liver, nowhere near your thyroid. So if your liver doesn't work well, your thyroid, so anybody who is on thyroid medication, you better make sure your liver is checked out. And I don't mean just by blood work, because blood work doesn't show you liver function. It only shows you liver damage. That's two different things.
About the ALT and AST tests.
Yeah, liver. If stuff shows up on liver enzymes on a blood test, you're really screwed. But what happens is that it goes dysfunctional long before that happens. But unfortunately, medicine will tell you that it doesn't show up on blood work, so you're fine. How many people listening to this have heard that one? that
Right.
everything shows up normal, there's no reason you should feel sick.
Right.
Well,
Right.
that's because the blood tests don't show you accurate levels of function, right? They're only going to show you when something falls outside of the parameters, you know. So if
So
a
does this
3 is normal, 4 is not, you know, as soon as you're a 4, we'll talk to you. But you know,
So does this kind of explain why a lot of women are put on their choice of hormone or thyroid medication, and why they say, I'm taking this and I'm just not feeling any better, because potentially it's not looking at their liver. So, and their liver has to repackage and escort out the spent synthroid or whatever else they're on, right? And so it's kind of, it seems like a double liver whammy.
It is. I mean, the poor liver is overloaded. I mean, it's got an onslaught coming at it like that. And that's just the way medicine works. I mean, if you don't have enough of something, they just give you more. I mean, if you have too much of something, they try to decrease it. So they just throw stuff at your presenting symptom. But it's not going after why it's an issue. I'm not saying that you can't take medication. I mean, we don't want people to suffer. And if we can take down your symptoms, but what I would like for you to do is try to go after the underlying reason in the background at the same time. I would like for people to do both, because that's where you need to mix the approaches together so that the person can heal. But so I don't know if you've looked around or not, but there's a lot of people that got thyroid issues. And so, but nobody's looking at the liver, because medicine will say, well, the liver doesn't have anything to do with your thyroid. And I'm like, are you reading the same books I'm reading? Because it's not true. And then you also have your gut. So particularly your small intestines, and 80% of your immune system resides in your gut. So that tells you something already. If you have an autoimmune disease problem, you got a gut problem straight out of the gate.
Right.
But because you had what they're trying to give you for your RA is what? Immune suppress. They're trying to suppress your immune system. Well, how about you suppress it to figure out why it's going crazy at the same time? And then, but here's the thing, when the gut gets inflammation in there like that, but you have a significant portion of your lymphatic system is in your gut. It's the first system that comes to your rescue when things break through the gut that are not supposed to be there, with what they call leaky gut syndrome, right? Or where you have the inability to digest food well, and stuff leaks through the gut. And the lymph is the first to attack it. But in your gut is where you have the majority of neurotransmitters that go to your brain to control how your brain fires and wires and your mood. So some people may have heard of serotonin, because serotonin is what everybody takes when they have these serotonin drugs for depression or anxiety. So they're trying to change those serotonin levels. And you got serotonin in your gut, you've got dopamine in your gut that's related to Parkinson's, and you have GABA, all these sorts of different things. So you're only going to have as well functioning hormones in your brain, the neurotransmitters, and in your brain as you are with your gut. So if you have a dysfunctional gut, and people usually ask me, how do you know you have a gut problem? I'm like, because you're breathing. That's how I know you got a gut problem. And I just have to know how bad it is. Right. And then that's going to have a lot to do with your hormones as well. And then when you get this oxygenated environment that doesn't allow the cells to thrive, then you get bacteria and fungus and usually yeast like candida. Those things in and of itself begin to mess with the hormone balance of your body as well. So you can't just, if you have hormone issues, you can't just take hormones.
Right.
It's way more involved in that. And that's why I think that we're getting more lost in our approaches to trying to help people with what they call lifestyle diseases, which are chronic diseases, because there's not one thing you can blame. You know, in trauma medicine, it's very simple. Like, okay, if somebody stabs me with a knife in my shoulder, A equals B. Like, take the knife out, fix my shoulder, I'm good. If I have some infection like Ebola, okay, well, let me just try to kill that thing and know more